Good evening. Tonight's story is The Irish Legend of the Bracket Bull. This story was documented by Douglas Hyde, a scholar, linguist, and academic who transcribed the story as it was told to him verbally. This version was published in the Irish Fairy Book in 1909. Like many old legends, this story starts with the Bracket Bull and then goes off into some strange and surprising directions. To be honest, some parts of it make no sense at all, but the telling is so engaging that it's impossible not to just sit back and enjoy the ride. Now, let's open our imaginations and begin. I wrote this story carefully down, word for word, from the telling of two men, the first, Sean Cunningham of Ballinfool, and the second, Martin Brenner of Ballinlougha in the barony of French Park. They each told the same story, but Martin Brennan repeated the end of it at greater length than the other. The first half is written down word for word from the mouth of Cunningham, the second half from that of Brennan. There was a man in it long ago, and long ago it was, and if he was in it, then he would not be in it now. He was married, and his wife was lost, and he had only one son by the first wife. Then he married the second wife. This second wife had not much regard for the son, and he was obliged to go out on the mountain far from the house to take care of the cattle. There was a bracket bull amongst the cows out on the mountain, and of a day that there was great hunger on the lad, the bracket bull heard him complaining and wringing his two hands, and he moved over to him and said to him, "You are hungry, but take the horn off me and lay it on the ground, put your hand into the place where the horn was, and you will find food." When he heard that, he went over to the bull, took hold of the horn, twisted it, and it came away with him in his hand. He laid it on the ground, put in his hand, and drew out food and drink and a tablecloth. He spread the tablecloth on the ground, set the food and drink on it, and then he ate and drank his enough. When he had his enough eaten and drunk, he put the tablecloth back again and left the horn back in the place where it was before. When he came home that evening, he did not eat a bit of his supper, and his stepmother said to himself that he got something to eat out on the mountain, since he was not eating any of his supper. When he went out with his cattle the next day, the stepmother sent her own daughter out after him, and told her to be watching him till she should see where he was getting the food. The daughter went and put herself in hiding, and she was watching him until the heat of the day came. But when the middle of the day was come, she heard every music more excellent than another, and she was put to sleep by that truly melodious music. The bull came then, and the lad twisted the horn off him, and drew out the tablecloth, the food, and the drink, and ate and drank his enough. He put back the horn again then. The music was stopped, and the daughter woke up, and was watching him till the evening came, and he drove the cows home then. The mother asked her did she see anything in the field, and she said that she did not. The lad did not eat 2 bites of his supper, and there was wonder on the stepmother. The next day, when he drove out the cattle, the stepmother told the second daughter to follow him, and to be watching him till she would see where he was getting things to eat. The daughter followed him and put herself in hiding, but when the heat of the day came, the music began, and she fell asleep. The lad took the horn off the bull, drew out the tablecloth, the food and drink, ate and drank his enough, and put back the horn again. The girl woke then, and was watching him until the evening. When the evening came, he drove the cows home, and he was not able to eat a supper any more than the 2 evenings before. The stepmother asked the daughter did she see anything, and she said she did not. There was wonder on the stepmother. The next day, when the lad went out herding the cows, the stepmother sent the third daughter out after him and threatened her not to fall asleep but to have a good watch. The daughter followed the lad and went into hiding. This daughter had 3 eyes, for she had an eye in the back of her head. When the bracket bull began playing every music more excellent than another, he put the other eyes to sleep, but he was not able to put the third eye to sleep. When the heat of the day came, she saw the bracket bull coming to the boy, and the boy taking the horn off him and eating. She ran home then, and said to her mother that there wasn't such a dinner in the world as was being set before the boy out of the horn of the bracket bull. Then the mother let on that she was sick, and she killed a cock, and she let down its blood onto her bed, and she put a sup of the blood into her mouth, and she sent for her husband, saying that she was finding death. Her husband came in, and he saw the blood, and he said, "Anything that is in the world that would save her, that she must get it." She said there wasn't a thing in the world that would save her but a piece of the bracket bull that was on the mountain. "You must get that," said he. The bracket bull used to be the first one of the cattle that used to come in every night, and the stepmother sent for 2 butchers, and she set them on each side of the gate to kill the bracket bull when he would come. The bracket bull said to the boy, "I'll be swept tonight unless another cow goes before me." He put another cow out before him, and the 2 butchers were standing on each side of the gate to kill the first one that would come in. The bull sent the cow out before him, going through the gate, and they killed her, and then the stepmother got a piece of her to eat, and she thought that it was the bracket bull that she was eating, and she got better then. The next night, when the lad came home with the cattle, he ate no more of his supper than any other night, and there was a wonder on the stepmother. She heard after this that the bracket bull was in it all through, and that he was not killed at that time. When she heard that, she killed a cock, and she let down some of its blood into her bed, and she put a sup of the blood into her mouth, and she played the same trick over again, and said that there was nothing at all to cure her but a piece of the bracket bull. The butchers were sent for, and they were ready to kill the bracket bull as soon as he came in. The bracket bull sent another one of the cattle in before himself, and the butchers killed it. The woman got part of its flesh, and she thought it was part of the bracket bull that she was eating, and she got better. She found out afterwards that it was not the bracket bull that was dead, and she said, "Never mind, I'll kill that bracket bull yet." The next day, when the lad was herding the cows on the mountain, the bracket bull came and said to him, "Take the horn off me and eat your enough now. That's the last time for you. They are waiting to kill me tonight, but don't you be afraid. It's not they who shall kill me, but another bull shall kill me. Get up on my back now." The lad got up on his back, and then they went home. The 2 butchers were on each side of the gate waiting for him. The bracket bull struck a horn on each side of him, and he killed the 2 butchers. Out with him then, and the lad on his back. He went into a wild wood, and he himself and the lad spent the night in that wood. He was to fight with the other bull on the next day. When the day came, the bracket bull said, "Take the horn off me and eat your enough. That's the last luck you have. I am to fight with the other bull immediately, and I shall escape from him today, but he will have me dead tomorrow by 12 o'clock. Himself and the other bull fought that day, and the bracket bull came back in the evening, and he himself and the lad passed that night in the wood. When the next day came, the bracket bull said to him, "Twist the horn off me and eat your enough. That's the last luck you'll have. Listen now to the thing I'm telling you. When you'll see me dead, go and cut a strip of skin off the back and a strip of the stomach off me, and make a belt of it, and at any time at all there will be any hard pinch on you shall have my power." The bracket bull went then to fight with the other bull, and the other bull killed him. The other bull went away then. The lad came to the bracket bull where he was lying on the ground, and he was not dead out and out. When he saw the boy coming, he said, "Oh," said he, "make haste as well you can in the world, and take out your knife and cut that strip off me, or you will be killed as well as myself." There was a trembling in the poor creature's hand, and he was not able to cut a piece at all off the bull after his feeding him for so long, and after the kindness he had got from him. The bracket bull spoke again and told him to cut the strip off him on the instant, and that would assist him as long as he would be alive. He cut a strip off the back then, and another strip off the belly, and he went away. There was plenty of trouble and of grief on him, going of him, and he ought to have that on him too, and he departing without any knowledge of where he was making for, or where he would go. A gentleman met him on the road and asked him where he was going. A lad said that he didn't know where he was going, but that he was looking for work. "What are you able to do?" says the gentleman. "I'm as good a herd as you ever saw, but I'll not tell you a lie, I can do nothing but herding. But indeed, I'll do that as well as any man that ever you saw." "It's you I want," says the gentleman. "There are 3 giants up by my land, on the one meering with me, and anything that will go on their land they will keep it, and I cannot take it off them again. That's all they're asking my cattle to go in across the meering to them." "Never mind them. I'll go bail that. I'll take good heed of them, and that I'll not let anything into them." The gentleman brought him home then, and he went herding for him. When the grass was getting scarce, he was driving the cows further out. There was a big stone wall between the land of the giants and his master's land. There was fine grass on the other side of the wall. When he saw that, he threw down a gap in the wall and let in the pigs and the cows. He went up a tree then and was throwing down apples and all sorts to the pigs. A giant came out, and when he saw the lad up in the tree throwing down the apples to the pigs, the head rose on him. He came to the tree. "Get down out of that," says he. "I think you big for 1 bite and small for 2 bites. Come down till I draw you under my long cold teeth." Take yourself easy, says the boy. Perhaps it's too quick I'd come down to you. I won't be talking to you any longer, says the giant. He got a leverage on the tree and drew it up out of the roots. Go down, Black Thong, and squeeze that fella, says the lad, for he remembered the advice of the bracket bull. On the instant, the black thong leapt out of his hand and squeezed the giant so hard that the two eyes were going out on his head, for stronger was the power of the bull than the power of the giant. The giant was not able to put a stir out of himself, and he promised anything at all only to save the life for him. Anything at all you want, says he to the lad. You must get it from me. I'm not asking anything at all except the loan of the sword that's under your bed, says he. I give it to you and welcome, says the giant. He went in and brought out the sword with him. Try it on the 3 biggest trees that are in the wood, and you won't feel it in your hand going through them, says the giant. I don't see any tree in the wood bigger or uglier than yourself, says he, drawing the sword and whipping the head off him, so that he sent it 7 furrows and 7 ridges with that stroke. If I were to get on the body again, said the head, in it talking, and the men of the world wouldn't get me off the trunk again. I'll take good care myself of that, says the lad. When he drove the cows home in the evening, they had that much milk that they had not half enough vessels, and 2 coopers were obliged to make new vessels to hold the quantity of milk they had. You're the best lad I ever met, says the gentleman, and he was thankful to him. The giants used to put, each man of them, a shout of him every evening. The people only heard 2 shouts that evening. There's some change in the car tonight, said the gentleman when he heard the 2 shouts. Oh, says the lad, I saw one of 'em going away by himself today, and he did not come home yet. On the next day, the lad drove out his cattle until he came to the big stone wall, and he threw a gap in it, and he let the cattle into the same place. He went up into a tree and began throwing down the apples. The second giant came running and said, What's the meaning of throwing my wall and letting your cattle onto my estate? Get down out of that at once. You killed my brother yesterday. Go down, Black Thong, and bind that one, says the lad. The thong squeezed him so that he wasn't able to put a stir out of himself, and he promised the lad anything at all only to spare his life. I'm asking nothing of you but the loan of that old sword that is under your bed. I'll give you that and welcome. He went in and brought out the sword with him. Each man of them had a sword, and every sword better than another. Try that sword on the 6 biggest trees that are in the wood, and it will go through them without turning the edge. I don't see any tree in the wood bigger or uglier than yourself, says he, drawing the sword and whipping the head off him, so that he sent it 7 furrows and 7 ridges from the body. Oh, said the head, if I were to get going on the body again, and the men of the world wouldn't get me off it again. I'll take care of that myself, says the boy. When he drove the cows home that night, there was a wonder on the people when they saw the quantity of milk they had. The gentleman said there was another change in the car that day again, as he did not hear but only 1 shout, and the lad said he saw another one going away that day, and it was likely he didn't come back yet. On the next day he went out and he drove the pigs and the cows up to the hall door, and was throwing down the apples to them. The 3rd giant came out, the eldest man of 'em, and he was full mad after his 2 brothers being dead, and the teeth that were in his head were making a hand stick for him. He told the boy to come down, that he didn't know what he would do to him after his having killed his 2 brothers. Come down, says he, till I draw you under my long cold teeth, and it was on him the long cold teeth were, and no lie. Go down, Black Thong, and bind that one till the eyes will be going out on his head with the power of the squeezing that you'll give him. The black thong leapt from him, and it bound the giant until the 2 eyes were going out on his head with the squeezing and with the tightening it gave him, and the giant promised to give him anything at all but spare my life, says he. I'm only asking the loan of the old sword that's under your bed, said the lad. Have it, and welcome, says the giant. He went in and brought out the sword with him. Now, says the giant, strike the 2 ugliest stumps in the wood, and the sword will cut them without getting a bent edge. Musha then by Mary, says the boy. I don't see any stump in the wood uglier than yourself. And he struck him so that he sent his head 7 furrows and 7 ridges from the body. Oh, John, for ever, says the head. If I were to get going on the body again, the men of the world, they wouldn't get me off the body again. Take care of that myself, says the boy. When he came home that night, the coopers were not able to make enough of vessels for them to hold the quantity of milk that the cows had, and the pigs were not able to eat with the quantity of apples that they had eaten before that. He was a while in that way, herding the cows, and everything that was in the castle he had it. There was no one at all going near the castle, for there was fear on them. There was a fiery dragon in that country, and he used to come every 7 years, and unless there would be a young woman ready bound before him, he would drive the sea through the land, and he would destroy the people. The day came when the dragon was to come, and the lad asked his master to let him go to the place where the dragon was coming. "What's the business you have there?" says the master. "There will be horsemen and coaches and great people there, and the crowds will be gathered together in it out of every place. The horses would rise up on top of you and you'd be crushed under their feet. It's better for you to stop at home." "I'll stop," says the lad. But when he got them all gone, he went to the castle of the 3 giants, and he put a saddle on the best steed they had, and a fine suit on himself, and he took the first giant's sword in his hand, and he went to where the dragon was. It was like a fair there, with the number of riders and coaches and horses and people that were gathered in it. There was a young lady bound to a post on the brink of the sea, and she waiting for the dragon to come swallow her. It was the king's daughter that was in it, for the dragon would not take any other woman. When the dragon came out of the sea, the lad went against him, and they fought with one another, and were fighting till the evening, until the dragon was frothing at the mouth, and the sea was red with its blood. He turned the dragon out into the sea at last. He went away then, and said that he would return the next day. He left the steed again in the place where he found it, and he took the fine suit off him, and when the other people returned, he was before them. When the people came home that night, they were all talking and saying that some champion came to fight with the dragon and turned him out into the sea again. That was the story that every person had, but they did not know who was the champion who did it. Next day, when his master and the other people were gone, he went to the castle of the 3 giants again, and he took out another steed and another suit of valour, and he brought with him the 2nd giant's sword, and he went to the place where the dragon was to come. The king's daughter was bound to a post on the shore waiting for him, and the eyes going out on her head looking would she see the champion coming who fought the dragon the day before. There were twice as many people in it as there were on the first day, and they were all waiting till they would see the champion coming. When the dragon came, the lad went in face of him, and the dragon was half confused and sickened after the fight he had made the day before. They were beating one another till the evening, and then he drove away the dragon. The people tried to keep him, but they were not able. He went from them. When his master came home that evening, the lad was in the house before him. The master told him that another champion came that day, and that he had turned the dragon into the sea. But no doubt the lad knew the story better himself than he did. On the next day, when the gentleman was gone, he went to the care of the giants, and he took him another steed and another suit and the sword of the 3rd giant, and when he came to fight with the dragon, the people thought it was another champion who was in it. He himself and the dragon were beating each other then, and the sorest such a fight you ever saw. There were wings on the dragon, and when he was getting it tight, he rose up in the air, and he was thrusting and beating the boy in his skull till he was nearly destroyed. He remembered the black thong then, and said, "Black thong, bind that one so hard they'll be listening to his screeching in the 2 divisions of the world with the squeezing you'll give him." The black thong leapt away, and she bound him, and then the lad took the head off him, and the sea was red with his blood, and the waves of the blood were going on top of the water. The lad came to the land then, and they tried to keep him, but he went from them, and as he was riding by, the lady snatched the shoe off him. He went away then, and he left the horse and the sword and the suit of armour in the place where he found them, and when the gentleman and the other people came home, he was sitting before them at the fire. He asked them how the fight went, and they told him that the champion killed the fiery dragon, but that he was gone away, and that no one at all knew who he was. When the king's daughter came home, she said that she would never marry a man but the man whom that shoe would fit. There were sons of kings and great people among them, and they saying it was themselves who killed the dragon, but she said it was not they unless the shoe would fit them. Some of them were cutting the toes off their feet, and some of them taking off a piece of the heel, and more of them cutting a big toe off themselves, trying would the shoe fit them. There was no good for them in it. The king's daughter said she would not marry one man of them. She sent out soldiers then, and the shoe with them, to try would it fit anyone at all. Every person, poor and rich, no matter where he was from, must try the shoe on him. The lad was stretched out lying on the grass when the soldiers came, and when they saw him, they said to him, "Show your foot." "Oh, don't be humbugging me," says he. "We have orders," said they, "and we cannot return without trying the shoe on everyone, poor and rich, so stretch out your foot." He did that, and the shoe went on his foot on the moment. They said to him that he must come with them. Listen to me, said he, till I dress myself. He went to the care of the giants, and he got a fine new suit on him, and he went with them then. That's where the welcome was for him, and he is dressed up as e'er a man of them. They had a wedding for 3 days and 3 nights. They got the pond, and I the lakelet. They were drowned, and I came through. And as I have it tonight, that ye may not have it tomorrow night, or if ye have it itself, that ye may only lose the back teeth by it. So we are lingering in the British Isles again this week with this delightful story. I love how weird it is. The bull stores full meals with a tablecloth inside its head and encourages the boy to butcher it while it's still alive or just freshly dead. Then the boy goes off to become a giant killer and a dragon slayer, but he also doesn't seem to want any credit or anything for it. He just goes on being a cowherd. And then the princess combs the kingdom for a man who fits the shoe. It's all so odd and inexplicable. But of course, what is completely charming about this story is the way that it is told. I love that Douglas Hyde simply transcribed it from a verbal telling, but also, bless him, gives credit to the men who told it to him. We have way too many stories where that doesn't happen. Douglas Hyde was from County Roscommon in Ireland, where he actually collected this story. Apparently he was sickly and he was homeschooled as a child, and he spent a lot of time talking and listening to adults, where he developed a fascination with the way that old people spoke and with the Irish language. He would go on to join the Society for the Preservation of the Irish Language and later to co-found the Gaelic League. The Gaelic League was not just focused on studying and preserving the Irish language, but also preserving Irish culture, music, and dance. Unfortunately, preserving the Irish language in the 1920s was a political issue. Hyde transitioned from academics to politics and back until, in 1938, he became the first president of Ireland. Naturally, therefore, his political accomplishments overshadow his contribution as a collector of folktales and his contribution to this book in particular, but this story is well worth reading yourself, and I will leave a link to it in the description below. The title text and the bull illustration that I've used throughout were drawn by George Denham for this, the Irish Fairy book. For those of you who are still listening, this week's confession is that I am actually messing around with Irish folklore instead of cleaning house right now. It is a disaster in here, but I'm procrastinating by paying attention instead to all these interesting words and phrases and stories. Speaking of stories, at Restored Lore, I find the weird, the cool, the odd, the obscure, and I try to connect them with new audiences. If you want the best of old fiction and folklore, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story.